Pleasure having dealt with both in the troop, so it's great fun to have that opportunity. Now I would ask Jacob Nednick to step forward to offer his comments on Thomas.
Thomas and I have been friends since kindergarten. We have ventured through tick-infested woods, waged wars with plastic army men, played pool, had snowball fights, sled races, and water gun battles, and have played countless games of Risk. Thomas is one of my best friends, and it is no surprise that he is getting his Eagle Scout award. He is everything a Boy Scout should be: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Thomas was always a trustworthy one. We have jokes that if anything were to happen to my parents, Thomas would become my legal guardian. This joke comes from the fact that my parents told him this when we were both 10. I don't know any 10-year-old who could be trusted to raise a child, yet I'm sure I would have turned out great if Thomas had to raise me. Thomas is known for his affection towards fire. I'm not saying that he's a pyromaniac. He simply works to make the fire as good as it can be. Most nights camping, he would be the last one awake, tending to the fire until he went to bed, or an adult reminded him that he needed sleep. Yet, somehow, we would groggily come out of our tents the next morning wanting to sleep at least for 5 more minutes, and Thomas would be wide awake, tending the fire. I'm telling the story because Thomas is a hard worker, and when he sets his mind to something, he can accomplish it. Whether it's working to keep a fire alive or turning a dirt path into a stone walkway, he works hard until it's done. This determination shines light on his obedience to work hard on his task and his loyalty to stick with the project. Thomas is also extremely helpful. Multiple times he has helped me with some household task, and his Eagle Scout project made my walk to church so much easier. He helped me with AP history, as somehow Thomas knows everything that ever happened in the history of the United States. I've known and been friends with the same person for 12 years. We've done everything from playing make-believe in kindergarten to helping each other with physics labs. Thomas's friendliness and kindness make the friendship work. When I had appendicitis and was recovering at my house, he visited me almost every day after school, and he even got me medicine, which was a giant bottle filled with candy. He is always there to talk or hang out. Our friends have hung out at his house many times, and I would like to take a moment to thank the Bostwicks for letting us use their house, making us lemonade, snacks, and delicious dinners, and for putting up with all of us in general. To top it off, they'd even drive us home. But Thomas is thrifty. He somehow saved all of his birthday money he has ever gotten. And he is very courteous. Constantly, people are calling him a gentleman and tell his friends that they should act more like that nice boy, Thomas. He is also reverent. He has a respect for others' feelings as long as they're not his friends. But even then, he knows when something is going to be taken too far. Thomas and Brendan were always great Boy Scouts. On our first few camping trips, they were making huge fires from the wood they had chopped up themselves, while the rest of us were desperately trying to keep our fires going for more than a minute. In Boy Scout camp, Thomas, Dylan, and Brendan had to spend the night on top of a mountain with no supplies. They slept on the ground, protected only by a shelter they made from ferns, which they aptly named Fernie. The next morning, they came back to the camp, tired but content, with exciting stories of their night. I'm still amazed how the 3 of them were able to do this. It sure took bravery on all of their parts. Now, if you have been counting, I have in no particular order shown how Thomas exemplifies 10 out of the 12 parts of the Scout Law. To get one out of the way, Thomas is clean. He seems to shower the right amount. And to the best of my knowledge, he isn't part of any secret gambling rings or the mob. And he looks real sharp in his suit. Now, the last word is cheerful. If I ask people if Thomas is cheerful, they would say no. Thomas is serious and refined. Most people would look at me funny if I described Thomas as cheerful, including Thomas. However, I think that Thomas is extremely cheerful. He is funny and fun to be around. He always greets people with a smile, and he doesn't complain about the little things. Thomas, it's been a great 12 years. You deserve this, and I'm happy that I've been able to talk about how great you are. 2 of my best friends are getting Eagle Scout awards today, so congratulations to both Thomas and Brendan for accomplishing this great feat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to have you here today. I'd like to begin by telling you how proud I am to be an Eagle Scout. It's been a long road to get here, but 7 years later I can still remember my first camp out with great detail. Now, I should preface my remarks by saying that I come from a long line of people who haven't spent a lot of time outdoors since they invented indoors. So camping was a new experience for me, including building a campfire. Now, you heard a lot about campfires, but my first night ever on a camping trip, when everyone was asleep, I decided to get out of the tent that Jacob, Dylan, and I were sharing and go and rekindle the main campfire. And I fed it from the sticks I collected myself at midnight until I had on my hands a blazing inferno. It was so bright that it woke my dad up, and he recounts that the inside of his tent was as bright as day, despite it being the middle of the night. Looking back, I think that was a sign that this is where I belong. Scouting has many fine traditions of learning, self-improvement, and self-reliance. We learned all the essentials of survival, such as starting fires with a single match, building shelters, and even pitching a tent by the light of a lightning storm. Scouting takes dedication, which is something personified by my fellow Eagle Scout, Brendan Largy. I remember a particular canoe trip where it was proclaimed that the canoe that possessed a certain jar of Jiffy peanut butter would be the invincible canoe. Now, when the jar hit the water, Brendan here jumped out of the canoe in order to keep it from falling into the hands of the older scouts. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. There are many things that I miss about scouting now that I'm 18. I miss the weekly meetings here at the church where I have many friends. I miss the campouts and all the crazy happenings. And I even miss the foodstuffs, although sometimes the preparation was, a little suspect. In Scouts, we work together as a unit. The differences among us are never more obvious, because when you bring it, you cook at campout, where people eat everything from Spam for breakfast to Cornish game hen on a stick. I think most of all, I will miss the camaraderie that is an essential part of being a Boy Scout. The organization and its lessons certainly have their value, but I think that all the friends I have in this troop were my motivation for being a Boy Scout, and more so than anything you can get in a handbook. Having been a Boy Scout for 7 years, it's been my goal to conduct myself in accordance with the Scout law. I hope this law is very much a part of who I am, and it helped me along my way to Eagle. An Eagle Scout project is a considerable undertaking, and it requires a tremendous level of commitment, organization, and patience to be able to put together a quality product. My project took place at this church out back, where I constructed an 80-foot stone walkway from Clinton Street to the church. This project totaled 252 hours between its planning and its execution. A project like this needs many people to volunteer their efforts in order for the whole thing to come to fruition. I am thankful to have had my friends and family, as well as a core of Scout volunteers who are willing to help me accomplish my goal. Scouting is about community. An Eagle Scout finds that upon ascending to the rank, he enters a community of his fellow Eagle Scouts, many of whom he will run into at some point in life. As part of my fundraising for this project, I received donations from multiple members of the community who were Eagle Scouts and were therefore very willing to help me. There are many people in the scouting community I have to thank, people without whom none of this would be possible. I'd like to thank the Scoutmasters, and thank you to Mr. Wazo, who was here when I first joined, for teaching me all the essentials of scouting, including how to cook a pork chop with nothing but a rock. Thank you to Mr. Saladas, who has been my Scoutmaster for most of my time here, and who could not have been more supportive of my efforts, and who never met a hike he didn't want to go on. Thank you to all the Assistant Scoutmasters who have over the years instructed us and molded us into better Scouts. Thank you to the Troop Advancement Committee for guiding me through the Eagle Scout requirements. Thank you to Pastor Brockma and Mr. Steve Miller of the Presbyterian Church, who have been supportive of my project from the beginning. Thank you to the Scouts who volunteered their time to help me construct my path. Thank you to Jacob for speaking on my behalf. And most of all, I would like to thank my mom and dad. All these letters from the president and the ex-presidents and the Pope and so on, and all the declarations making, March 31st, Thomas Bostwick Day, they belong to my parents as much as they do to me. My mom was the person who started me on this path way, way back in 2nd grade at the Cub Scouts, where she signed on to be my den leader. And without her pushing me and staying on top of me throughout this whole Eagle process, I would not be up here now. And I have to thank my dad because he went on every single camp out with me, and that's truly amazing to think about, especially considering that going into this he had as much camping experience as I did. I can't place a value on all of his invaluable resourcefulness. We termed him the resource because he found a way to make something out of nothing. Once he transformed some Ovaltine powder and non-dairy creamer into actual hot chocolate. It's the closest thing to alchemy any of us will ever see. I don't know how it worked, but it tasted fine. And, so he was there for every single camp out, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And so thank you. And I have greatly enjoyed my experiences here as a Boy Scout, and I've learned a lot of things beyond leadership. I've learned that canoes and large rocks are not a good combination. I've learned that it's never so dark as when it's the middle of the night, you don't know where you put your flashlight. Most importantly, I've learned that good friends and warm fire are the key to some of the happiest evenings. Thank you.
We should be recording all these speeches. They've all been wonderful, published in a few years, and really make a lot of fundraising opportunities for Troop 12. Mary Lee's a good idea to get all the speeches that we've had over the last several years